The Ford Bronco is finally back. Well, sorta kinda. This model that we have right here is the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport, and although it says Bronco on it, this isn't actually the highly anticipated return of the Bronco. This is a new crossover model that is going to exist in a new Bronco family, along with the big Bronco. That's going to be a lot more like a Jeep Wrangler. Think of this as a smaller rival for things like the Jeep Compass. How is the Ford Bronco Sport? Well, today I'm going to show you. Let's see what the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport is all about. So let's start with an exterior walk around of the Bronco Sport, because this is an all new model. It shares a platform with the Escape, but you wouldn't tell that just by looking at it. It looks absolutely nothing like the Escape, which kind of looks more like a lifted hatchback. We have very boxy proportions. I love these big hood bulges right here. This color is called Alto Blue. It's not my absolute favorite color, but I do think it looks pretty nice. Up here on the front, we have these very circular headlights. I think they look really cool, very retro at the same time. We have Bronco written in white on this Badlands trim. The Badlands is the top trim, aside from the first edition, which is completely sold out. We have this very nice, very high front end here with 8.8 inches of ground clearance. That is fantastic for this segment. We even have some little tow hooks. Now, coming along the side of the car here, we have optional wheels. These are 18 inches. They look like Steelies, but these are actually lightweight alloys. We, of course, have these plastic side moldings here. You can actually get some fender flares optionally on this car. You can see we have a little logo that denotes what model we have. We have the Badlands, which is the highest trim and most off-roady version you can get aside from that first edition. We also have some roof racks over here. We have the plastic door handles as well. You can see the roof actually kicks up a little bit here. That gives you a ton of space. I really like how this window is kind of segmented. It is very unique in this segment. Gives this a very boxy, lot of space inside. And back here we have another unique look. We have Bronco Sport again written in white. Back here we have our Ford logo here off to the side. Very square taillights. This thing just has a very rugged appearance, and I think people are going to be gravitated to how the Bronco Sport looks. So now that we've checked out the Bronco's exterior, let's go ahead and hop inside, where a lot of that rugged design carries over to the interior. It's a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of materials. You can tell they wanted this to be a very rugged cabin. We have lots of hard touch, and rubberized stuff all over the place. Some of the elements feel just a little bit cheap to me. For example, we have this plasticky steering wheel. You can get a leather wrapped one, but it's optional. Even here on this top Badlands trim, that's a little bit weird to me, although we do have a leather armrest here, which is kind of weird. This is pretty much the only leather piece in the car. Even the seats are cloth. They're very nice cloth as well, but I will say I don't think the seats in this car are that comfortable. The seat bottoms are just a little bit too short, and I'm only about 5'9" on a good day, so definitely try these seats out before you buy. You can get leather as part of an optional Badlands package that's going to make this cabin just a little bit nicer, but I do think that the interior overall is just a little bit cheaper than I was expecting. Now, that being said, the layout in here is actually fantastic. I do like how Ford has laid out everything here. We've got this 8-inch touchscreen, nothing super special to talk about here. It's still running the Sync 3 infotainment system. It does not have the new Sync 4 that you're going to get in the F-150 and some newer stuff. The only thing special about it is it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but not wireless as in some new Ford vehicles. And you do have this cool button right here. That's going to put on our front-facing camera. That is very handy when you're doing off-roading. You can do a little bit of spotting and things like that. And this does have a little washer bottle on it, so it will spray that camera to make sure that it's always clean. Beneath that, we have a little storage area that's perfect for a cell phone. I really love the integration of that. We have all these rubberized controls for the volume and tuning, real tough. We have a nice storage area down here as well with some USB ports, a USB and a USB-C. Some nice cup holders. We have our normal rotating Ford dial here with a manual mode, paddle shifters here on the steering wheel. And below that, we have our G.O.A.T modes, our G.O.A.T, go over any terrain mode. And it's basically a simple twist. You can twist that so we have normal, sport, eco, and slippery. And then for the off-road stuff, we have mud and ruts, we have sand, and we have rock crawl. We're gonna try those out just a little bit later in the video. And finally, the Bronco Sport is going to come very well loaded on safety stuff. We have Ford's Co-Pilot Assist standard on this vehicle that gets you really handy things like blind spot monitoring. We do have an optional package on here that's going to roll in some additional things for about $750, including adaptive steering and adaptive cruise control. That's going to really take this Bronco Sport to the next level in terms of safety. So here in the back of the Bronco Sport, legroom is not all that impressive. We have about 36.9 inches of legroom, which is less than you'll get from like a Ford Escape. It's less than you'll get from a Toyota RAV4 or a Jeep Compass as well. So definitely not the best in its class in that regard. But because this has such a boxy shape, the headroom is absolutely outstanding. I'm not even close to touching the ceiling in this model. So headroom is great. We do have some other cool things back here. We do have air vents, which is nice. We also have a 110 style home outlet. And we do have these nice seat backs with these zippered pockets that are really cool. So I like being able to put stuff back there. And we also have some hidden storage if you just pull this tab underneath this rear seat. And just a quick note before we check out trunk space, all of the floors underneath the regular carpeted mats are rubber in the Bronco Sport, meaning they're very easy to clean, like a Land Rover Defender or a work truck. And now it's time to talk cargo space, and there's actually a lot to go over right here. First of all, if I push this button that says glass here on the left, I can lift up just this piece of glass. That's great if you want to just throw something in there, or maybe you have a bunch of small items that might roll out. This will prevent them from doing that. We have two Easter eggs here. We have this little Bronco right here on the glass, and then we have this little mountain range here. There's actually a bunch of Jeep style Easter eggs on this vehicle. Now, if we go ahead and push this other button, we can open up the full tailgate. No power tailgate. Of course, this is not a luxury vehicle. And back here, we see not one of the bigger storage areas, but we do have rubberized floors. That's great for like sand and stuff like that. If your kids are putting their muddy cleats back here, you can wash this out very easily. But this is not the biggest vehicle in its class. We're going to get about 32.5 cubic feet of storage. That drops down to about 29.5 if you get this 4-cylinder model. That's because we have a full-size spare underneath. That's useful for off-roading stuff. There are bigger models in this class, like the Ford Escape, that actually has more space than this. But there are some other clever innovations back here. For starters, if I push this little button right here, we have these little lights here on the tailgate. That's great if you're doing any tailgating at night or things such as that. We even have a bottle opener right here. That's great if you're drinking a cold brew or something like that. So we can fold down the second row as well. That can be done with these little buttons right here. It's a little bit of a reach here, but once it's down, you're gonna get about 65 cubic feet of storage on the 3-cylinder model, about 60 if you get this 4-cylinder model. And it is very tall back here because of that lifted roof, so you can actually fit some decent sized mountain bikes in here, and there are a bunch of accessories that you can get to make this storage area even more flexible. But I do love these little hooks right here. We have 4 of them spread throughout, and you can see I have my backpack latched in great. That is a really useful feature. So it's time to get the Bronco Sport out on the road, where I know Ford says that this was built to do off-roading and people are going to take it off-road, but I think the vast majority of these cars are going to spend most of their lives comfortably here on the pavement. So let's go ahead and start there by talking about the 2 available engines. Now, there's a base engine, a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder EcoBoost that's with a turbocharged, and that's what about 90% of Bronco Sports are going to ship with. That engine is shared with the Ford Escape, which again shares underpinnings with this car, produces decent numbers, 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. 4-wheel drive is standard, and your fuel economy is not that great. This car is not built with fuel economy in mind. It's built for off-roading, so your fuel economy is 25 in the city, 28 on the highway, and 26 mpg combined. If you want better fuel economy, you're probably going to want to go for the Ford Escape, which also offers a hybrid version. There is no hybrid version offered on the Bronco Sport, at least not yet. And that engine is swift enough. It's definitely not fast by any respects. You're going to hit 0 to 60 in about 8.6 seconds. Now, about 90% of Broncos are going to have that 3-cylinder, but we have the Badlands, which means we have the 2-liter 4-cylinder EcoBoost engine, and this tremendously increases performance. Now we have 245 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, and that's going to transform the Bronco Sport into one of the top performers in the subcompact segment. I think the only thing that has more, at least currently, is the Mazda CX-30 with the turbo. Now, fuel economy is hurt pretty significantly, but not too bad. We get 21 mpg in the city, 26 on the highway, and 23 combined, so you're losing about 3 mpg in those categories. As we mentioned, we still have an 8-speed automatic sending power to all 4 wheels, and we do have extra transmission and rear diff coolers here on this 4-cylinder Bronco. Now, fuel economy might be hurt, but acceleration is greatly improved. This thing is really quick. Oh boy, you put your foot down and it just goes. It is really quick. 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds makes this one of the quickest vehicles in its class. And now let's talk about the Bronco Sport's road manners, because although it's built for off-roading, it should be comfortable out here on the road. Now, the ride is a little bit on the jouncy side, but with independent front and rear suspension, I would not call this uncomfortable whatsoever. It's definitely a little bit firm though. The steering is really quick, a little bit on the heavy side for a vehicle like this, but I think it's quiet enough in here and refined enough in here that you would definitely want to drive this every day out on the road. Now, I mentioned the G.O.A.T modes, the go over any terrain modes. Now, we're going to try those out off-road, but they do have a couple of on-road modes as well. I mean, tarmac is a terrain after all. So we've been in normal mode this whole time. We also have an eco mode that we can switch to that's going to really retard the throttle, make it just feel a little bit more sluggish out here on the road. We also have a slippery mode in wet weather conditions, or you've got a sport mode. And I'm surprised, but the sport mode really kicks this car into life, really makes the transmission wake up just a little bit. Your throttle mapping becomes extremely different. You only have to apply a very small amount of throttle to get some acceleration out of this guy. So yes, even on the road, and the steering gets a lot heavier too, even out on the road, these G.O.A.T modes are pretty useful. I can't wait to see what they do when you actually go off the road. Now, we've already driven the Bronco Sport out on the road, and a lot of people are going to be quick to say, this is just a toy off-roader. You know, people are just going to take this to the mall and back. Well, not us today. We have taken it to the Ocala National Forest, our typical off-road spot. Now, the spot where we usually do a lot of like climbing and stuff like that is sadly closed today, but we did find the next best thing, and something you're going to find a lot of here in Florida, and that is sand. All right, so we are out here in Ocala National Forest, and the first little road that we are on right now is some very soft sand, very loose. The Bronco Sport's 4-wheel drive system is going to come in handy here, as I'm going to have to turn it around here. We've got some tight area here. Bronco Sport getting right through it very easily. I've already put the go over any terrain mode into its sandy setting, which is going to perfectly tune the throttle and everything for sandy conditions like this. So now we're on a little bit tighter. We're going up this little trail here, and ooh, it looks like this area is about to open it up. So now we can have a little bit more fun on the sand here. Let's see if we can slide the Bronco Sport around here. So let's go. This is some really deep sand here. We're gonna keep our momentum going, kicking some sand up. Ooh, this is really fun. We're going around, we're kicking up a lot of sand now. This all-wheel drive system is doing its job, keeping me moving very easily, no problems whatsoever. Now, we did get bogged down quite a little bit. This sand is getting a little deep. Let's hope that it crawls us out of here. Going right hand down, and there we go, we're getting right up. I was almost a little worried about the Bronco Sport there, but nope. It crawled us right out of that easily. Now that was some really, really deep sand that we just got in, and the Bronco Sport crawled us out with no problem. Awesome little vehicle. So we just took the Bronco Sport on some really deep sand. Now we're gonna try something more of a sandy trail. This is more or less what a lot of people might do with the Bronco Sport. We're just gonna show that the traction in this vehicle just kind of never gives up. We just went up a very steep incline. Of course, it was all sand, and this vehicle is going right over it. That 8.8 inches of ground clearance is really helping us clear a lot of this. These bumps are not really too rough here, and now we're coming off the sand and we're going to come onto the main clay access road where we can build up a little bit more speed. Now, if I'm being honest here, I'm going to have to take the vehicle out of its sand mode because we are just going to be way high up in the RPMs. So I'm going to put it back into normal mode for this, and you could easily drive this road in a Toyota Camry. This is not all that challenging. But what I want to point out is that the Bronco Sport is very comfortable on this sort of road because we have the independent front and rear suspension. Of course, it's jouncy. This is an extremely jouncy road, but I feel like this is the type of vehicle that you're going to be able to take on a road like this and just not be worried about rocks and little chips and things like that. It is a really good little adventure vehicle. So we've tested the Ford Bronco Sport off-road. Clearly, this is not meant to be a rival for things like the Jeep Wrangler. That is for the big Bronco to do later on. But here's what the Bronco Sport does do. It is one of, if not the most capable little crossover you can get on the market today. So there are other options like that. You've got the Subaru Crosstrek, you've got the Jeep Renegade and Compass as well. But I think this is just a little bit more capable than those. We've got a little bit better ground clearance. Those G.O.A.T modes, as you saw, are really cool as well. So if you are looking for a vehicle in this class that can do some light off-roading, more capable than you think, the Bronco Sport has proven to be pretty darn cool. So that was the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. Pricing starts at about $26,800, meaning it's not too pricey, but it does get up there when you go for a higher trim model like this Badlands. The Badlands starts at $32,800, but you have to add a couple of packages. There's the Badlands package, there's a safety package, there's leather, things like that. That brings the price up to about 37 grand. So it is about the same as a lot of other subcompact crossovers, but this fits in such a weird spot in the lineup. I really love the looks. I think a lot of people are gonna like the looks as well. As you've seen, it's got some pretty capable off-road chops, and that power under the hood, the 2-liter EcoBoost, is simply fantastic. I think Ford is going to win a lot of people over just based on the looks alone and the Bronco name being back. I think you're gonna be seeing a lot of these out on the road very soon. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. Stay tuned. Later this year, we will be hopping behind the wheel of the big Bronco. And if you liked this video, be sure to leave a like and hit subscribe with the notification bell. That's how you can be alerted of when we publish our latest videos. And be sure to check us out on all the other social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, where we have short little videos of cars just like this Bronco Sport. I'll see you next time.